Hello and welcome back, guys. Yes, so let's create, since we want to create something that kind of looks like Excel, what I want now is for us, when we click on a cell, we are supposed to see it highlighted to know that this is the cell that is actually selected at this moment. Yes, sounds about right. So how can we go about doing that? Well, the thing is, since we have an on-click listener here, every time I click on one of these items here, the system gets notification on what exactly the item I have clicked. And to get that item, I simply need to do event.target to get it. So, which makes things a little bit easier. So let's come back here to my the index page right here. Where is it? Okay, there we go. So what we're gonna do here is, let's create one more class here. I'm going to call this one selected, right? So let's call it selected. Then let's decide what selected will look like. So what I want to do is, unfortunately here, what to do. Okay, what I will do for now is just say border. Let me just add a border here and say solid. Let's make it 2 pixels and let's make it blue, just so that we can see this very well. So what I want to do is to be able to click on an item and then add this class to that selected item. So let me come back here to the main.js, yes, where the JavaScript is. And if I come back here for a second, you see that we have an on double click to edit on the body itself, JS body. But what I want on the body is also a on click listener, so that when somebody clicks on something, I know something was clicked. Now, all I can do to do this, to add that, is I can add the on click the way I did on double click here. I can add another one here and say on click like that, and then give it a function that I want to run when that happens. But we've done this several times, so let's do it the other way around instead of doing it this way. So you might be asking, what's the advantage of doing it this way, or doing it the other way than this way? Well, on the other way, you can add multiple on-click listener to one item, but here you can only add this on-click once. However, you can still make it work by doing it this way. You can just run 2 functions in here. You can just say something like function 1, whatever that function is, and then you put a semicolon and put another function there, which will be function 2, and then put a semicolon. So what will happen is that when you click, this function will run, and then this function will run as well. You can put as many as you want in there. But there are times when you may not have access to the item itself, like this one. Let's say, for example, this T-body is going to be generated dynamically by JavaScript itself, because JavaScript can create elements as well and add them to the list. Now, there are times when you create an element that didn't exist, and you may want to add an on-click listener. So it's also possible to add that as text, but you can also add it from JavaScript itself. So for as long as we can get this JS T-body, then we can add an on-click listener to it. So I'm going to go here for a second, the same way we added an event listener. So let's add one more here. So I'm going to say, wait a minute. Yes. Okay, what I want is to capture where we are still creating variables here. Let me say var. By the way, you can use let like this, still the same thing as using var, so let's just use it there. We're going to say let T-body should be equal to, why did it suggest T-body here? There we go, var T-body is equal to that. So we are already using it here, And instead of repeating ourselves, I'm just going to cut that out and put it here. That way it can be used by everyone. There we go. And then here I will add the event listener. I will say tbody dot add event listener. So what am I adding? It's called the click event. And then I'll put a comma and tell it the function I want to run. So what will we name the function? Well, I can just say tbody clicked. Yeah, so it's very descriptive like that. And that's it. So now when somebody clicks, we're going to get this function to run. So whatever we put in this function will be the action that is taken. So let's create that function. Let's also put an E so we can capture the event when we want to. I'm just going to say alert e.target so that we know exactly what was clicked. Yeah? Now, what do we want about the target itself? I want the tag name. I want to know if it's a table data, table row, or something like that. So I'm going to say tag name, like so. Okay, so let's come back here for a second, refresh the page, and click. So you see it's table data. Okay, so it's always table data. Regardless where I'm clicking here, it's going to be table data. Okay, so that's okay. So all we need to do now is to add a class of selected to this item. Easy peasy, right? Oh, unfortunately I've removed the E there, so it should be e.target.classList.add. Let's add to that class list. What are we adding? We're adding selected, the selected class. Simple and straightforward. So let me come back here for a second, refresh and click. So something isn't actually working. So let me inspect this element console. So we don't have a we don't have any errors. That's what I was about to say. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what is going on. So let me go back to API here where I create the table. Oh, this is not where we create the table from. We create the table in the JavaScript. So let's come to where we are creating the table. So right here on table data, what I want to do is put a class here. I'm going to say class is equal to selected because I want to see if it actually works. That's before we do anything. So let's refresh. And unfortunately, it doesn't work. So why isn't it working? Let's come back to the index here and let's look at the selected class. Selected. Border solid 2 pixels blue. Okay, let's try change the background color, shall we? Let's put a red, something very noticeable. So I will refresh this. And apparently that works well. Interesting. So what I can do now is just inspect element. So I can come here and say border solid thin. So it's inheriting from there. This is why. Otherwise it would be like this. So I guess the problem is because it's inheriting from table data. I see. Interesting. Okay, so you can see here this one is eliminated, but this one is working. Table TD. So it seems this one is taking precedence over this one. Yeah? Interesting. Okay, so to solve that problem, what we can do is we can add a what can we do here? Table data right here, border padding 5 pixels. So if for some reason I put some thingies there and then refresh, okay, so we do get that blue thing now. And if I go back to main.js, the JavaScript, because I want to remove the class that I added, let me just put a letter there to make it different so it doesn't work, and refresh. Okay, so I get this thing here which doesn't look as great. Okay, so what I will do is, let me change things up a bit here. Let's come back here. I'll leave this border there, and then the selected one, let me leave the background. Let me find something that works better. So I'm going to inspect the element and then go to background color here, and then let me choose something that will just show that this cell is actually selected, even though, yeah, something that will give the impression of a selection. I think that should be enough. So here it's going to be up to you what colors you want to add to signify that a cell was selected, and then I'm going to copy that that color, and then I will put it right here instead of the red. So selected, bam, and then come back to main.js and then remove this thing here. Okay, now I refresh, everything is back to normal, but now when I select, you see that it shows that that item is selected like that. So play around with the colors until you are satisfied. So you see how easy it is to have something selected, just setting. Now the problem is, you have seen here obviously that every time I select something, the previous selection remains as it is, and this is not very good. So we're going to fix that in the next video.